I was out on my run this morning, and I run a lot. A couple times, well, probably most of the week, 5, 6 days a week, sometimes seven, but I run a lot. And I love running. It feels very freeing and very liberating to me. And I get a lot of inspiration, which is where I'm going next with this. I was out on my run and I got hit with a little bit of a dose of a blast from the past. It was like a little bit of reality sunk back into my awareness. And when I first started coaching, the the path that I sought when I started this journey, and what I mean by that is the transformation from that 300-pound suicidal, over drinker, whatever, guy, abusive guy in the world. When I made that shift from that guy to start becoming this guy, it was a path of self mastery. Now, um, I'm going to explain what self mastery is because it sounds like, arrogant and egoic, and it sounds like, hustle, whore, and grind guru. But self mastery is really just being able to control the only things that we control in life. If you really look at life itself, there are three things that you interact with every single day of your life. Now, I'm putting these in big old buckets, all right? There's three things that you interact with. There are your thoughts, okay? And beliefs are just thoughts. Beliefs are just habitual thoughts that have become mired as an element of truth in your subconscious mind. So there's beliefs are just a thought form. So the first big bucket, you deal with your thoughts. You deal with what's happening in your mind. And sometimes, like maybe this is true for you, sometimes your mind feeds you really, really empowering thoughts and capable thoughts and expansive thoughts and growth-oriented thoughts. And sometimes your mind offers and serves up unconsciously debilitating thoughts, things, insecurity and inadequacy and insignificance and stories that you're not good enough and you're not enough and you don't have enough, and what if the future is bleak, and what if you fail and you can't fail. Sometimes our minds service up these things, and you interact with your thoughts on a daily basis. The second thing that you deal with are your emotions. You deal with feelings of being inside of this physical body. Okay. So you feel, sometimes you feel joy, sometimes you feel happiness, sometimes you feel enthusiasm, sometimes you feel fear, sometimes you feel grief, sometimes you feel anger, sometimes you feel hopeless, sometimes you feel shame, maybe some guilt, maybe desire, an obsession for something that you want. And we deal with these feelings on a regular basis. And if you really pay attention, your emotions are typically triggered by your thoughts. These two are interrelated. So you're dealing with the mental formation of these thoughts. And then these mental formation of the thoughts manifest in your body as emotion. And emotion is energy in motion. So thought forms just start to move different energies in your body. And if you really, really contemplate and pay attention to what you think about, if you think about what you think about, you're going to find that probably if you're just living like most people on this planet, you don't challenge or you don't direct your thoughts and your thought forms most of your life. You live in reaction, in response. And because of that, then your emotions are lived in reaction and in response to your thought forms. And this is an unconscious way to live. This is what we say. This is what we call, when we say in I guess, study of consciousness and awareness, People that don't think about what they think about and don't think about what they feel and aren't in tune with what's happening in their mind and their body, we say these people are asleep. Now, awakeness is the opposite. Being awake is when you pay attention to what's happening in your mind, you pay attention to what's happening in your body, and you take an active role in influencing what's happening in your mind and your body. And you direct. Now, a thought might pop up and it might come out of nowhere because we don't think all thoughts. Sometimes thoughts happen, right? Think about it and pay attention. Sometimes a stray arrow thought just comes out of nowhere. And if left unchallenged or undirected, it could bring you to your knees. It could take you, like you were happy 1 second, and then this thought just pops in and says, but what if it all falls apart? And suddenly you're in a doom loop and you're in a spiral and you're thinking about what you don't want instead of thinking about what you do want. You're allowing that stray arrow thought, that undirected thought, to control your mind and your body. And this is called when you're operating in a state of being asleep. You are not the conscious director of what's happening. You're not orchestrating what's happening in your mind and body. You are its slave. And you are living as a victim of your mind and body instead of the master of it. You are living slave to what's happening in your mind and body, not the master. Now, the last element, so we've talked about our thought forms, we talked about our emotions. The third element are, let's just, a really, really big umbrella, let's call them our circumstances. Our money, our relationships, our health, our interactions with people, the economy, news, circumstances, things that are happening outside of us. And when you are living asleep, what happens is a circumstance in your life shifts. Let's say your bank account goes up and suddenly you're thinking more positive thoughts and suddenly you're feeling more positive emotions. And then because your circumstances are in alignment with your preference, and when your circumstances are in line with your preference, typically your mental and emotional state increases. And then let's say your bank account goes down. And when your bank account goes down, you think a more negative thought, you feel more negative emotions, and suddenly you are living in a completely different world and is seeing the world and experiencing a completely different quality of life than you just did a little bit ago when your bank account was going up. And this is true for relationships. Somebody says something that you agree with or that you prefer, like you are awesome and you are valuable. And suddenly you're thinking like higher thought forms about yourself. You're feeling higher level emotions about yourself because your preferences have been met. And when you live in your mind and your emotions, when they cycle with circumstances, you are living as a slave to your circumstances, not as the creator of your circumstances. And again, I'll go back to, this is living asleep. There's no awakeness in allowing your circumstances to influence your mind and what you feel in your body. But yet, this is where most people in life are living, that they need their bank account to go up so that they can think better thoughts, so that they can feel better emotions, so that they can be okay inside of them. And some people need for their environment to look the way they want it to look, their preference, so that they can think higher forms of thoughts, so they can feel higher forms of emotion, because they are living as a slave to their circumstances, not as the master and not as the creator of them. See, there's out of those three forms, your thought forms, your emotional patterns, and your circumstances, you only control what's happening in your body. You only control your mind and your emotions if you choose to. You don't, bitter fact, but you don't control your circumstances. You can influence your circumstances, but you are not in control of your circumstances. And here's where things start to unravel is most people are trying to control their circumstances because they don't know how, or they don't want to, or they feel like a victim of their thought forms and their emotional patterns. So they're spinning their wheels in life, trying to constantly rearrange their circumstances in their health and in their wealth and in their relationships and in their interactions with people and in the economy. They're trying to rearrange their circumstances, and which they don't control, and they'll never all look exactly the way you want them to look for a long period of time. But they're trying to rearrange their circumstances so that they can be okay in their mind and their body. When really, you only control your mind and body, and you don't control your circumstances. You only influence your circumstances. But living as a victim is not controlling what you do control, your mind and your emotions, and not controlling or not influencing the thing that you influence, your circumstances, or trying to control, when you're upside down, you're trying to control the thing that you only influence, which are your circumstances. Or you're not controlling what you do control. I hope this is making sense. It's when you're controlling what you only influence, and you're not influencing what you do, what you can influence, and not controlling what you can control. And it's this cocktail and this whole mix of I guess, holy crap, living a delusional life and running around trying to rearrange things that we don't need to rearrange to be okay. I work with a lot of really wealthy people, and some of these wealthy people have multi-millions of dollars in assets, but their mind has convinced them that they don't have enough. Their emotions have convinced them that they don't have enough. Their circumstances, if they see it, at one point, maybe they had zero and now they have $10 million. And when that 10 million goes down to 9,950,000, they start to freak out and they start to panic. And their body and their mind starts to act like they have zero. And that's because they're looking to always increase their finances as a form of becoming okay in their mind and body. And I love my finances increasing just like anybody else. But when you are attached to an outcome, which means you need it to happen in order to be okay, then you're going to serve yourself up a plate of dissatisfaction and displeasure and dis-ease for most of your life, because things aren't always going to go the exact way you want them to go. And if you look at all the circumstances in your life, you have preferences. We have preferences, and we're always trying to get our preferences matched and met. And very rarely will all of your circumstances look exactly like your preference do, according to your vision. And self-mastery is your ability and your level of being able to control your mind and body regardless of what is happening in your circumstances and in the world around you. Self-mastery is a path of increasing the level of mastery and ownership that you have over your mental well-being and your emotional well-being, regardless of if your circumstances go up or down. And if your mind and your body goes up when your finances go up and go down when your finances go down, if your quality of inner wealth, if your quality of internal peace and harmony is disrupted when your bank account goes down, or when your spouse says a certain thing, or when the economy starts to pull back, or when a politician is that you don't prefer is elected, when your quality, your inner quality of life goes down because external circumstances, it means that you are not practicing self-mastery. You are practicing like self-victimization. Your mind, you have turned over your mind and emotions to the outside world, and you are not controlling what you can control. The word that I love in this circumstance and in this situation is becoming untriggerable. It's being able to influence and direct your thoughts and your emotions to the highest level, regardless what's happening outside of you. It's being focused on what you want instead of what you don't want, regardless what's happening outside of you. It's being able to lock your mind and your emotions on to your vision, to your goals, to your destination, and not be triggered when the present moment doesn't look like that, doesn't match your preferences. Being present means that regardless of what's happening in your circumstances, that you are okay now, that you don't need the present moment to look different than it actually does. And I'm not saying that this is easy. What I'm saying is this is very simple, but it is, in fact, challenging work. And I'm not perfect by any means, but over the course of 8 years, I've learned how to take back my internal power, my personal power over my mind and my emotions, so that I can detach and detangle my mind and my emotions from my circumstances. And it's just like playing a game of Monopoly. Life is just like playing a game of Monopoly with my family. That the economy doesn't feel like life or death for me. Relationships don't feel like life or death for me. Business doesn't feel like life or death for me. It's just like playing a fun game with my family. These things are not my identity. Life, my business, my money, my body, these aren't my identity. I am not the body, just like you're not the body. I'm not the mind. I'm not my thoughts, just like you're not your mind, your thoughts. But I am the infinite, eternal, abundant, and powerful soul, the awareness that's watching the mind, the thoughts, that's aware of the emotions, that sees the body in the mirror, that witnesses the body in the mirror. But if your thoughts and your emotions rise and fall, then you are identified with the thing that's making them rise and fall. If you are identified with your money, if you are identified with your success, then when you start these things start to slip away from you, then your mind and your emotions will slip as well. And the process of self-mastery isn't about being perfect. It's about being able and being willing to think about what you think about, to see and become aware of what you're feeling, to learn how to detach over the course of time, detach your mind and your emotions from your circumstance, to influence your circumstances instead of trying to control them, from a place of not being attached to an outcome, and to not needing to avoid any circumstance in life for you to be okay. Self-mastery is about recognizing that nothing outside of you needs to impact and influence what's happening in your mind and in your body. Especially nothing outside of you needs to control what's happening in your mind and in your body. Because if it does, you're just a victim of those things. And one of the Facebook posts that I made one time that they got the best interaction. I said, if your mind and your emotions rise and fall with your bank account, your money's bitch. You don't own your money owns you. And this is a very, very low quality way to live. It's a very unconscious way to live. It's a very asleep way to live, thinking that you need more money to think and feel better. Because that money cannot get inside of you. That money cannot positively impact your thoughts, your beliefs, and your emotions. That's up to you. The awareness that you are, it's up to you to rearrange your thoughts, to rearrange your emotions, to direct them where you want them to go instead of where shitty circumstances oftentimes takes them. Self-mastery is about being able to self-regulate your internal quality of life over a period of time without becoming victim of life or life circumstances. And there was a Buddhist monk in the Vietnam War that was protesting the war, and he sat down in the streets of Vietnam, in a street in Vietnam, and poured gasoline over his head and lit his body on fire. And he didn't flinch because he was not identified with the body. He didn't identify as the body. He identified as the awareness within the body that recognized the thoughts, that recognized the emotions, that recognized the pain, the physical pain of the body, but he didn't identify with it. He didn't take ownership of those things. And this is what we can do when we detach our identity, when we detach our safety, when we detach our security, when we detach our self-worth, our value from the circumstances that are in our life. Then as they rise and fall, we stay self-regulated and at a high quality of life inside. In a moment, you can think a higher thought form and elevate the internal quality of life in your body. Think about your greatest sale. Think about the day that your firstborn was born. Think about the day you got married. Think about the day that you went to your dream vacation. Think about those things and just sit in those circumstances for a second, in the thoughts and the feelings of those circumstances, and watch the overall quality of life inside of your body, your inner wealth. Watch it increase. And you can do that whenever you want. And then if something comes along and you take a hit in your finances and that overall quality of life falls, it's because the thoughts and the emotions in your body have shifted, not because of the financial ding that you just took. And when you control and you learn to control the mind and the emotions, your overall quality of life and your overall inner wealth, the internal state of being, when you learn self-mastery techniques, your inner state will maintain a high level regardless what's happening around you. And that's when you will no longer be a victim of your circumstances, but you will become the master of your circumstances. And on my run this morning, I got back into that state, remembering that when I first jumped out of the shooting coaching, that was my jam, to teach people emotional regulation and how to detach from their circumstances and learn how to feel personally powerful inside, regardless of what's happening outside, because that's really where the real inner wealth is. And that's what everybody wants. That's why you want the money. That's why you want the relationship. That's why you want to go on that awesome vacation. So you can feel, you can think the things that you want to think. You can feel the things that you want to feel. But you can do that without the circumstances. When you recognize that you are the soul in control and you're not your circumstances. Guys, thanks for letting me jam. I hope this is helpful. If there's anything I can do to help in this realm, just reach out. I'm always willing to have a conversation. Send me a text, go into the show notes, send me a text. Let's jump on a call and let's jam. I'd love to help you. I've got the Inner Wealth community. I've got the Inner Wealth Mastermind, and I do take on private clients. And I would love to help you on this journey. Question is, are you ready? Are you ready to fully experience life at the highest level and finally stop being a victim of your circumstances?